What if the most powerful leadership revolution isn't coming from Fortune 500 boardrooms, but from small businesses right in your neighborhood? My name is Renee Moorefield. I'm CEO of WisdomWorks, and I recently sat down with Tom Herring, co-founder of Benefit Corporations for Good. What he shared about purpose-driven leadership was really inspiring to me. Tom works with leaders who ask three simple questions with every decision they make. How will this affect our people? How will this affect our community? And how will this affect our planet? These leaders aren't just building successful businesses. They're advancing thriving people and a thriving planet with every thoughtful decision. Enjoy my conversation with Tom. I'd love to hear what resonates for you. I know I'm speaking to the choir here when I say the stresses and imbalances all across our world are pretty evident, and we really need a kind of leadership that can lead from a sense of wholeness and a concern for not just profit, but people and the planet, and from a much larger perspective. I've been doing interviews with people to hear their journey and hear their story about that. And I would love to know a little more about your story. I know you're leading Benefit Corporations for Good, and I know that you are doing some certification and measurements to really support smaller organizations to step up and kind of embrace this triple bottom line approach. But tell me a little bit about how you got here.
Yes, yes. So I had been in a career in advertising. That's pretty much where I spent really my first two acts as I kind of, quantify them. And along the way, I met a dear friend who was at the University of Oregon the same time I was. And then we got to know each other in our career paths. And she was in leadership roles in healthcare, basically, and I was in the agency side, and I was a copywriter, and did a lot of work, had my own business for a while, and then Marianne Harmer, who I'm referring to, came to me and said, Tom, we always enjoy working with each other. Why don't we do something really grand and something that, really gives us a reason to get out of bed in the morning? And that's kind of how things got started. And as we were exploring this partnership, we initially thought our work would be best suited to provide senior thinking, senior marketing, senior leadership, consulting with nonprofits. And we found that was interesting, but there were a lot of things that we didn't feel our strengths were really being optimized. And so we got introduced to this idea of the Benefit Corporation, and here in Oregon they call it the Oregon Benefit Company. And there's some nuances, and there are only 4 states that call themselves benefit company states. The rest, which are now I think somewhere around 40, call themselves benefit corporation states. And I believe Colorado, where you are, is a benefit corporation state.
Okay.
So yeah, and so we just decided this is a way where we really want to pursue, and we wrote a book. It got noticed by a friend in the Oregon Secretary of State's office. She helped us. She wanted us to create a standard for Oregon benefit company, and kind of that's really what was the spark, that got.
Wow. And the work, is it focused, my understanding was it's focused on smaller organizations. So you've got like B Corp, B Lab that are really focused on global companies, but that this is really helping smaller organizations think and act differently and really embrace something more than just running the business, but really looking at their purpose even in a different way. Is that true? Or can you say a little more about that?
Yeah, yes, I think it is true. I think one of the problems the state saw while B Lab, the certification arm of becoming a B Corp, was costly for the smaller business person, and costly not only in terms of money, but also in terms of time. And it's a very rigorous standard, and we have great respect for that organization. As a matter of fact, there were members here of B Local PDX that helped give us some guidance as we went through. And they were very complimentary about us providing a standard and help smaller businesses kind of get recognized for work they're doing, but they just couldn't have that accountability baked in at the cost of a B Lab certification. And that's really where our focus has been for 7 years now. I mean, it really is. We have a few very large, in my terms, a couple thousand employees in a few cases, but the majority are from the solopreneur up to, the 3-4 woman band kind of thing. So
Okay, that's wonderful. And the reason I think it's so wonderful is because when I think of the fabric of the US, small businesses don't get talked about enough, but that is like, I believe what holds a lot of our communities together and our cities together really are small businesses. So we talk about the big brands, and I know our organization works with a lot of global brands, and that work is wonderful. It really is wonderful. And there are these smaller organizations that are often don't have a voice in some decisions, are often unseen, unheard, and yet they're behind the scenes really making our lives better. Yeah.
Yeah. I was at a meetup last night, and there were a few B Corp members there, and one of our client organizations was represented. And we introduced ourselves kind of like what we're doing now, and they asked like, what gives you joy? And I said, I'm inspired. I get to work with these really incredible people that, I have the highest regard for, because they know the world's hurting in so many different ways, and they're doing everything as small business owners to help change that course, that direction, and they're leading with purpose. And so I get that juice every day. My partner tells me, Tom, this is kind of a broken record, and I've been doing this for 7 years to her. So, but it keeps me going, because there are so many good businesses out there, and I just don't think they get recognized, number one. And we try to help them. That's really what it is we just try to help and guide them. Whether they choose to be certified by us or not, that's irrelevant. It's like they understand this concept of being a force for good, and how they can find a way to bake in some accountability to being that kind of business and that kind of organization.
Well, we don't know each other that well. We've just met each other for the last 5 or 10 minutes, but it's your energy is infectious. Like I can feel it. I'm inspired already. So in the middle of all the stresses and demands and divisions that are happening in the world, what do you think it means to be a force for good? So we use often the word thriving. And for us, that is, that's another way of even defining it, is to be not only well resourced for your complexities and demands, but to be someone who wants to amplify, to create a world where everyone can thrive. So to really be that force for good. What does it mean to thrive as human beings and as organizations? Let's add these small organizations that you're inspired by and then inspire me on this planet during this time of our world?
Yeah, it's a great question. I looked during my prep for our call today. I looked up just the basic, and I think you'd even sent me something, but I looked up the basic, Merriam-Webster's definition of thrive. And basically there were 4 words: to grow vigorously, to flourish. I guess that's 5 words. And I think that's kind of where I see our businesses. And what they're doing is the thriving comes from their purpose that's built into their organizations, and they find ways that they make their decisions not just based on how much money or profit they're going to make, but they look at things and they ask themselves, how might this decision be affecting our people, our team, our community? How is this affecting our planet? And so those 3 boxes need to be checked at each decision they make. Old school, old world, certainly the one that I was born into, I can tell you this, it was all about money. And I think that has not got us to where we're in a great place right now. And I think this whole B Corp movement, which started, in the late, 2008, 2009 period, has, awakened this inner spirit, this inner conscience of business owners and a lot of small business owners is where I see it happening probably more frequently than I do in these larger corporations. Um, I think that's the kind of business that I see is thriving right now, and they attract and the proof in that thriving is that they are attracting the best of the best when it comes to employees. Younger generations want to work with for a business or in a business or be a team member in a business that has a purpose beyond making a dollar. They examine, they look at these businesses and they do their research, to decide what is a good fit for me and what fits with my values. And this company obviously has or has not the values that I want to pursue, and that they'll make their decisions accordingly. So I see them flourishing with great employees. I also see them doing great work in the community outside of their business. And part of our certification, it's a 60 question document, and part of it asks about what kinds of work are you as a business leader, because typically these are aimed at the leadership of these small businesses. What are you doing to help your community? What are you doing to help challenge communities? What are things that you've considered? Do you have policies? And so our whole approach to get them on this vigorous path is to just ask them questions that they almost certainly have asked themselves, but then we find a way to kind of help quantify that, and let them go from there. So that I think that's where I see this thriving, and it's, as I said, I get really amazed at. I follow them all religiously. I'm a stalker, and they know it on their LinkedIn pages. To see the kind of work they're doing, what they've been recognized for, people that are going to work for them. It's very gratifying. Very gratifying.
Does one of the organizations that you're stalking, does one of the organizations come to mind to you that you can give us as an example of, here's an organization that is really doing such inspiring work when it comes to community, when it comes to their own people, and then they're also commercially a successful organization?
Yeah, there are a couple. There's one that really just popped right off the bat, and of all industries, it's based in the manufacturing and arm, and we have one or two maybe that are in that of our 100+ businesses that we've certified today. And this company, they're doing work in what was called the infrastructure, green infrastructure of the Biden administration, and they've won contracts in helping build offshore windmills, working with renewable sources of energy. And the leadership is just, the leader of this company, CEO, is helped me pass a bill, and I can talk about that later, in the state of Oregon 2 years ago. And I was so knocked out by just her passion and the policies and the work they're doing. One of the things I'll highlight is that they are very much invested in helping women in particular that leave the prison system, to help retool them, help them gain job skills and find a purpose for their lives after that. And I mean, it's probably the most dramatic example. I know we have a few others actually that are doing that as well, but it was the first time I think I'd heard one of our businesses do that kind of work. So it's a balance of doing great work that the world needs right now. Certainly, we need other ways to find energy based on how things are going, and we know that the carbon output that's traditional industries of energy are not the key to doing that if we want to survive as a planet. So they're on top of that, but then they're also doing good work, with people that have been challenged, and bringing them in to help lead a fulfilled and productive life.
Yeah, that is a great, and it gives us some grounding for anyone who's listening to this. Gives some grounding to the, a manufacturing organization that's
Yes,
actually doing some really wonderful work. So when you think of, you said that you had about 100
yes.
organizations that
Hmm.
are certified. When you think across those organizations to the leaders that you've worked with to really support them, what's the kind of leadership that you see emerging that is guiding those organizations, really supporting thriving people, a thriving planet, wanting to be a force for good? So what are the ways of leading that you are noticing?
Yeah, so I use obviously my own community as an example of those 100+ businesses, and I think um, as I evaluate them, as I think about them, they are committed, as I just mentioned in previous example of one of our businesses, they're committed to doing good for people and planet.
Hmm.
And that's baked into the decisions they make, the policies they've created, the accountability that they are required, that's required of them being a registered business that is a benefit corporation or a benefit company in that particular state. They're wholeheartedly embracing this triple bottom line that we call it, and it's people, planet, and profit. And as I said, they kind of ask these questions that guides them along the way on making decisions. How is this going to affect? It's a much more holistic look. And the funny thing is the mindset. It's not just an add-on. It's baked in. It's woven in how they think, and it's like breathing. They just don't know any other way, to keep things going. And I think, Renee, the other thing is that they really lead with this purpose and this integrity, and um, it's not just smart, I think, in today's world, but for as I said, for these, that's the only way they want to do business. They don't want to uh, operate any other way, and it's a commitment that just it inspires me, as we talked earlier about. That's really what shows me what true leadership in 2025 really looks like.
Yeah, I love that you brought up purpose because well, first off, I just got off a call with an executive that I'm coaching, and we were talking about the power of purpose. She's working on, as a leader, as a whole human being, purpose in her life, really getting clear, connecting with what her purpose is. And once we have had a couple of sessions together. Once we kind of wrapped that work up, we started talking about, now this is the kind of work you can also do with your team and get really clear about purpose. I find in working with leaders that teams are usually just on fire. They are thriving when there's an alignment. When you show up for work and your purpose is aligned with the purpose of the team or the purpose of the organization, so that you're living out your purpose every day you work. It's just like when you say, I wake up in the morning and I'm just so inspired, you know, to stock these companies and to help these companies. It obviously is touching a deep purpose in you, that, something that really is meaningful and matters to you. So I love that you brought that up. When we look at the factors of what are the factors that are core to leader thriving, vision and purpose is one of the most important ones, really being clear. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
What other qualities or skills are you seeing of leaders? Yeah, just as you notice how they operate, what other qualities or skills are you noticing?
Yeah. So I think as I look at purpose-driven leaders, um, I always see that there are typically three mandatory um, qualities, and that they're simply being open-minded, um, they're honest, and then they're empathetic.
Hmm.
And I think, without all three, it's very difficult to make good decisions, thoughtful decisions to engage in real conversations if you can't check those three boxes. And our leaders do. I mean, as you well know, I mean, empathy is a very key component, I think, of a key value of being a great leader. And it's funny, Renee. So before I entered, this is kind of a little personal note here, that before I came together with Marianne, and actually 2017, I kind of found my own self lost. I was having some real difficulty finding purpose, and I had to kind of go back to the to the starting blocks and figure out, how do I get on this right path. And I've always been, and thanks to the parents that helped raise me, I've been focused on being service oriented all my life. And so I went and I volunteered for you know an organization that's helping the homeless people in Portland. And Portland's had a very difficult time with that particular issue, as I'm sure you're aware.
Hmm.
And I think it was this idea of not only serving, cooking and serving, but also engaging. And this was always encouraged by the leader of this nonprofit, to engage with the people that are living on the street. They have no humanity, there is no connection. And so that helped me get back to realizing that, number one, this is something I'm good at, and something more importantly that really fills me. It really fills my my heart and my emotional makeup. And so that kind of sparked things. And then of course Marianne has been very much that way in her entire life, and still is, as she's retired. She's still doing a ton of. She inspires me too. And I think so. Finding that purpose is so critical, and it's awesome you're coaching, because I think it can be a very difficult or very challenging thing for a lot of people. I do, and I think I kind of, as I said, I got lost, and it all kind of brought me back. It showed me the path. It reignited this this whole sense of fulfillment, in me. And I took that, and I think honestly, it's made me not only a better leader, but I think a better human being, for my family, for my sons, for my grandkids, etc.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't remember who this quote is from. I'm not even going to quote it well, so it probably doesn't matter. But there is someone who said, becoming an effective leader or an extraordinary leader is about becoming a whole integrated human being.
Mm,
Just what you're saying. It's like, this didn't just help me become a better leader. This has helped me become a better person in the world, for my family, for my community, for yourself, for
yeah,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a beautiful. I mean, I really do. Yeah, I think that's. Um, it's funny that on my. I think this is something where. Um, what's at the core of me, and as I spin from this, it's more relevant to our conversation, is I have, and I'm looking at it right now, on the base of my computer stand. I'm still old school, and I love my PC. I'm not, I'm not techy enough for the newer versions. But anyway, at the very bottom, scrawled out in my horrific handwriting on a yellow post-it, it just says "Lead with empathy."
Hmm.
And it is the first thing I see every morning. It's what really kind of reminds me, and it's a powerful reminder, how I want to show up, and especially working with our community leaders. And I think I'm pretty good at it. I think that's kind of been part of me, as when I went through this period of re-examination here, 8, 9 years ago. I realized that that's been part of who I've been since I was a little kid, as far back as I can remember. I do have that ability to be empathetic, and um, uh, that helps when I'm engaging with leaders, whether they're going through certification with us for the first time or recertification, or many times they just have a business challenge and they want to sound out and get another ear, and see if we can help sort through, whatever solutions they might be exploring, or whether, those that they might not have. It's ultimately, it's my goal to help them be more purpose driven, and effective leaders, and they all start there. It's just, how can you be better? And I think that that idea of just being empathetic and listening, has been kind of my my standard. That's my standard, and I get that from businesses as I kind of go through a follow up, and is there anything? And I've heard it, and it's very humbling. I will say it's very humbling, and um, I don't know. It's one of the things where I really don't know how to operate any other way. So if you don't like it, that's probably there could be. I'm sure there are plenty of people that don't, But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah,
What I'm hearing you say is it sounds like you are able to create a space through empathy, where you can step into the shoes of the people that you're serving to really serve them best. And I would imagine it with that kind of experience, like if you were working with me as a business
yeah,
owner, I would imagine that not only would it help me get clear, but it would be elevating, like the conversation, that because of the empathy that you bring, it actually it feels good to me. It actually elevates the person that you're working with.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
imagine that would be true.
Yeah, I think that does happen. And again, I get it in follow-ups. Two of my most recent certifications, uh, it's weird because they're totally different industries. They don't know each other. Um, they both have really great companies, and they both have said during the certification process where I kind of my evaluation, of here's your metrics, but here's where I think the qualitative stuff, and they will stop me in the 30-minute call that we have and say, Tom, before before you continue, I just got to tell you, I've gotten more from you than I've had, from any other. And this is something where I kind of scratch my head a little bit, and I'm a little confused, like, well, I mean, I'm just doing what I'm doing, and I'm just trying to help them be better leaders, and they're doing great things. So it's easy. It's so much easier to be doing that for somebody else versus yourself.
Yeah. But it's often, I find that often, when you're operating from purpose, when you're operating from your kind of natural talents, your natural strengths, your natural ways that you want to serve, it is easy. When you say it's easy to do, it is easier.
Yeah.
It's easy, it's life enhancing, it's energizing for you, and it's infectious for the other people. It becomes that, it really does amplify. There's this natural amplification that happens when people are operating kind of in their purpose, really in their joy. I'll use another word, in their real
Mhm.
joy or deeper joy.
Mhm.
Um, can you say a little bit about the certification process itself? Like, what if someone's listening to this and they say, "Hey, I'm really interested in."
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, our standard is it's pretty simple. I mean, uh, it's a 60 question document, and it is a self-evaluation document. As we say in our value prop, it basically helps a company stand out as a truly ethical and sustainable organization. And our triple bottom line certification helps, attract conscious customers and team members and investors. um, so what happens is a leader decides to go through the process. There's a fee that's paid. It's very affordable. Our fee is based on the number of FTEs in our organization, whereas B Lab has theirs all based on revenue. It's based on a company's revenue.
Okay.
And so once somebody has decided to go through with that, we have an easy, we have like 11 or 12 impact quiz to see if you're right. And leaders, I suggest to them if they email me to go try that first, make sure if they're aligned. And then what we do is they go through that questionnaire. We're just upgrading it right now, where it's going to be far more. There are too many close-ended questions, so they're going to be a lot more open. So it's going to be a little more rigorous,
Okay.
and then people answer accordingly. And it's usually a 2 to 4 hour process, and we always recommend that leader try to set that time and try to do that in one setting. And then you can always go back and add documentation if there's something that helps support however you answered a particular question. And it's all basically, I mean, we have 8 standards that are within that 60 question document, and it starts with understanding the values of benefit corporations. Are you, we call it conscientious leadership is what we call that. DEI, green practices, community engagement, strategic business practices, customer service, and finally, life balance. And we just changed, and I just talked about this yesterday because I was with the person who suggested this, who I had not met face to face. We had work-life balance for a while, and she was questioning an architect, very sharp, and they were questioning, but Tom, shouldn't it be really life balance? Because it sounds like work is ahead of your life, and shouldn't your life be with? And I thought, bingo. So I'm going to be announcing that here in the next week or two that they'll see under the new questionnaire. So that's, and then what happens is, Renee, once that leader has finished that document, it comes back to me. I get an alert. I go through it, and then we get on a call. Usually it's within a week or two, typically is how it's been. And then we will go through this document, and I'll as I always say, I'll tell you where you've done well and where you can improve. And I just have food for thought ideas that I think might help you go along that way. And then they get the branding and our digital stamp to go with their own however they're promoting their business, etc.
And then is there like in the coaching or leadership development field, there is continuing education. You have to maintain a standard. So is there processes to maintain the certification?
Yeah, so it's a little looser on that right now, but here's something that we did start, which is basically exactly that, is that we started 3 years ago. We just finished our 3rd year, called Happy Hours for Good. So we're branding it in our way, and we have these quarterly meetups for local companies, so they have an opportunity to listen to a particular speaker. And it's our whole approach is we don't want no PowerPoints, very much a conversation like you and I are having. It's usually about 20 minutes, and there's a Q&A, and then people come, and it's kind of a cocktail hour where you can have a glass of wine or beer, water, whatever you want, and you get a chance to meet some of these other values aligned business leaders. And I started last year, and we're continuing on with a virtual happy hour for good, because we have businesses in 11 other states that we certified, as well as 1 Canadian province, which is really cool.
Wonderful. So there's some ongoing support, it sounds.
Right. Yeah, and I think the only other thing that we require, and this was voted upon by our first 25, our founding leaders, founding companies, as we call them, they all wanted, you're required by any state to produce an annual benefit report. And the annual benefit report is how have you been a triple bottom line business, or how have you had positive material impact on planet and on community? Nobody enforces that. Our businesses, those 25, wanted that, again, baked in. If they're going to get recertified, that report must be done. So we're doing kind of our own policing of that, so to speak. And I help them. I give them a template. There's a couple of white papers we have on how to do that. It's not difficult, but it's something a lot of them have not done before. So I help them with that. And if they need editing, or they want a second set of eyes or whatever, I'll talk to them about that.
That is wonderful. I love the support you're providing, because, you mentioned that it was in the 2000s where B Corp, B Lab, all this started to really come together.
Yeah.
And, in more of a structured, more of an intentional format to really support organizations. So it's not like People, Profit, Planet is a new idea in our world. But as far as figuring out, how do I make a commitment to that, and how do I embody it? How do I institutionalize it within an organization? Those are developmental paths for organizations and for the people who are leading them. I mean, they really are.
Yeah.
It's not a nice to have. How can we make this integral, fully integrated? And I love that you're creating a structure to make that happen. So if someone wants to find out about you, where would they find you?
Yeah, so the best place to start is, of course, at our website, which is Benefit Corporations for Good. It's a mouthful.com. And certainly they can learn more about a lot of these. We have a simple document about the differences between our certification and B Labs, because those are common questions that we get. Um, there's some of the businesses that we certify to give them an idea. We have a free resource page that has white papers on some of these topics we just discussed. How can you be a better business, with your DEI policies? How can you implement green practices into your small business? How do you write an annual benefit report, which we were just talking about? But giving them something that they can learn about, being a benefit company or a benefit corporation. So that's the best place. And of course, there's a contact page. I answer all contact, all people that inquire about whatever questions they might have. And I'm always happy to get on a call with them just to answer. That's just kind of how it goes right now. So I love that. I love that, as I mentioned earlier, that connectivity.
I so appreciate this conversation.
Thanks, Renee. It's been a true delight. I really
Uh,
has.